Hi, I'm Norm, and this is Strangely Canadian. In today's video, 10 strange tales from the province of Quebec. But first, be sure to subscribe to the channel and click on the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of our future content. In 2008, my family and I visited Quebec City for a vacation. We drove from Nova Scotia to the historic city and had a great time. One of the activities that we planned was the ghost tours of Quebec. It was amazing, and I will mention some things that happened on that tour. Located in central Canada, the province shares land borders with Ontario to the southwest, Newfoundland and Labrador to the northeast, New Brunswick to the southeast, a coastal border with Nunavut, and land borders with the states of Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, and New York. Quebec is the largest province by area and the second largest province by population. 94.6% of the province can speak or understand French. Here are 10 strange tales from La Belle Province. Number 1. Marie Corriveau, Quebec City and Lévis. Marie Joseph Corriveau was born in 1733 in Saint-Villers, a small town in what is now Quebec, but at that time was a colony of New France. It was a tough frontier, and Marie, like most, married young, wedding a farmer named Charles Bouchard at the age of 16. The couple had 2 daughters and a son before Charles died in 1760. The following year, Marie remarried to a man named Louis Etienne Dodier. The marriage was not a happy one, and both Marie and her father Joseph Corriveau were known to be on bad terms with Dodier. The exact details of their fraught relationship are unknown. However, few expected Marie to grieve much when Dodier was kicked in the head by one of his horses and killed. Dark rumors began to circulate. The British took official possession of France's North American territories in 1763, and they decided to hold an inquiry into the death. The inquiry took 11 days, with most of Corriveau's neighbors testifying. At the end, they decided that Joseph Corriveau had murdered Louis, and that Marie had been an accessory. With the force of martial law behind them, they immediately passed sentence of death on Joseph, while Marie was sentenced to be whipped and branded. Before the sentence of death, Joseph made a confession to his priest that his daughter Marie had actually been the killer, and that he had only helped her. They decided to hold a retrial. At the retrial, Marie pleaded guilty to the charge of murdering her husband. Her father was released without charge. She would be hanged, and her body would be placed inside of an iron cage and displayed at a crossroads as a warning to others and a reminder of the rule of English law in Quebec, a punishment known as gibbeting. After about 2 months, she was taken down and buried in a local churchyard, still inside of the iron cage. Marie's legend lives on, however. Stories soon started that she had killed her first husband as well, though there is no evidence of this. And then the stories expanded her number of dead husbands to 7, all murdered by Le Corriveau once the husbands discovered that she was actually a witch. Like all witches, she vowed that the grave would not hold her, and her corpse did not rest easy in the cage at the crossroads. Rather than standing for 2 months and then getting a Christian burial, instead she was said to have hung at the crossroads for years before disappearing, claimed by the devil himself. Other stories had her ghost floating around, still bound within the cage, clinging to the backs of lone travelers and demanding that they carry her across the nearby St. Lawrence River to the witches' Sabbat on Ile d'Orleans. Memphis Magnag. Memphis is a reptile-like lake monster said to live in Lake Memphis Magnag, a freshwater glacial lake located near Newport, Vermont, United States, and Magog, Quebec. Memphis is often described much like the Loch Ness Monster. While Memphis and most other lake monsters are disputed by scientists, sightings persist, and Memphis was last seen in 2005. It has been described as a whale or a plesiosaur-like animal, a description commonly brought up for other lake monsters. In August 2011, an artistic impression of Memphis was featured on a colored Canadian quarter. Number 3. Willow Place Inn, Hudson. In 1837, a servant girl named Maud was murdered at what is now the Auberge Willow Place Inn in Hudson. Her crime? Overhearing a conversation that she shouldn't have about the Lower Canada Rebellion, a patriot revolt against the British colonial power in Quebec. Francois Xavier Desjardins ran a general store out of the inn at the time, and Desjardins was a known patriot, and the Willow Inn became patriot meeting place under Desjardins' stewardship. Maud was eavesdropping on a patriot meeting at the inn. She was murdered and buried in the basement of the inn. The inn's patrons have reported hearing singing in the halls and seeing apparitions. Number 4. Mary Gallagher, Montreal. Mary Gallagher is a headless ghost who appears in the same spot every 7 years, according to her legend. She shows up at the corner of William and Murray Street, where a murder took place on June 27, 1879. Mary Gallagher was a prostitute, around the age of 38. She had been binge drinking with her friend Susan Kennedy when they picked up Michael Flanagan and went to Susan's home. The witness heard the sound of an axe chopping and the thunk of body parts falling, and Mary was found decapitated, with her right hand also chopped off. Mary's head was in a slop bucket. Susan was found with blood on her clothes and was arrested. She served 17 years and was released. Mary's headless ghost began to appear in the now vacant lot where the building once stood, but the last sighting was in 1928. The next chance for her to appear is 2026. Number 5. The Plains of Abraham, Quebec City. On September the 13th, 1759, the area was the scene of the Battle of the Plains of Abraham, part of the French and Indian War, which was also part of the 7 Years' War. On that day, British soldiers, under the command of General Wolfe, climbed the steep cliff under the city in darkness, surprising and defeating the French through a single deadly volley of musket fire, causing the battle to be over within 30 minutes. Both Wolfe and the French commander, the Marquis de Montcalm, died of their wounds. But the battle left control of Quebec City to the British, eventually allowing them to take control of Canada the following year. Plains of Abraham is home to the ghost of soldiers who died in the battle in 1759. Most often seen is one who stands at the entrance to Tunnel 1 on warm evenings, accompanied by the smell and sound of cannon fire. Sulfur has been smelled on the battle site, especially on cold September evenings. Ramsey Castle, Montreal. Ramsey Castle, also known as Chateau Ramsey, is a historic structure built in 1705 as the home of the then governor of Montreal, Claude de Ramsey. In 1775, it served as a war headquarters for the Continental Army and was visited by Benjamin Franklin in 1776 as he tried to recruit for the Americans during the Revolutionary War. It is now a museum and is said to be haunted by O'Leary, a guardian who worked there near the end of the 19th century, and by the spirit of Miss O'Dowd, a caretaker and museum curator who worked there for nearly 50 years. She died in 1985. If you visit the castle, be sure to have your camera ready. Many guests have captured images of the spirits and have detected the ghostly smell of sulfur. Number 7. Cathedral of the Holy Trinity, Quebec City. A narcoleptic spirit haunts the church where she was buried alive. From time to time, though no one is sitting at the organ it plays, this woman's ghost is often seen standing beside it, looking down from the balcony to the cathedral below. Now, as I mentioned earlier, my family and I visited Quebec City in 2008 and took part in the Ghost Tours of Quebec walking tour. The last stop on the tour was this cathedral. The tour ended with the guests being granted entrance into the dark church. My daughters, who were 18 and 8 at the time, scurried to the front pews, and I followed them. The tour was a long walk, so having the chance to sit down was welcomed. I was about to take a seat in the second row of pews, and the girls were going to sit in front of me in the front row. As my youngest was about to plop herself down on the lap of a lady, I reached out to apologize, only to watch her vanish in front of me. We took many pictures in the cathedral. In one, you can see a green haze the shape of a person in a dress. We also have several glitches with digital cameras at this location. Pictures from the cathedral were imposed on images from the following day. Montmorency Falls, Beauport. The apparition of a lady in white is seen by tourists through the mist falling down the falls in a wedding dress. Her legend involves a love story between herself and a young soldier. She and the soldier were engaged, and during the midst of their wedding preparations, he was called away to battle. The lady was quite worried and feared that her fiancé would be killed during the summer military campaign. The young soldier lost his life during a battle in 1759. The lady was suffering tremendous grief at her loss, and as the story goes, went out each night calling the young soldier's name in a vain hope that he may somehow return to her. The following year, the lady got dressed in her wedding gown and committed suicide by throwing herself into the falls. Her body was never recovered. Number 9. Chateau Frontenac, Quebec City. Chateau Frontenac is a majestic hotel in old Quebec City. It overlooks the St. Lawrence River. One side of the property is the Quebec Citadel and the Plains of Abraham. You can also walk along Dufferin Terrace along the hotel's walls. In 1620, Champlain, the founder of Quebec City, built the St. Louis Fort on this site. His successor, Governor Montmagny, had the residence expanded and a terrace installed. This was being excavated by archaeologists when we visited in 2008, and we had the opportunity to walk down underneath the terrace into the excavation site. The apparition of 17th century Governor Louis de Bode is frequently seen by staff members and patrons to be on an eternal search for his fiancée, who was in Europe at the time of his death. He is seen in period clothing, sitting on windowsills inside of the Hotel Frontenac, or wandering the hallways and the ballroom and staring at sleeping guests in their rooms. A woman's ghost with long hair dressed in sleeping gowns is seen in many guest rooms as well. She has even been known to lie down in bed with guests. Number 10. Fort de lSaintHelen, St. Helen Island. Witnesses report that the island is home to 800 soldiers who lost their lives when their general purposely put them in the line of fire of enemy sharpshooters. They are buried in a mass grave on the island. Apparitions of the soldiers walk on this island. Other paranormal activities are spooky footsteps of soldiers and objects disappearing only to be found in another place at a later time. Ghostly mist, light anomalies, disembodied voices. There you have 10 strange tales from the beautiful historic province of Quebec. See you next time when I bring you more stories that are strangely Canadian.